Walter Camp, the father of American football. Why is he called the father of American football? You'll hear me say that complete phrase whenever I use his name in one of my videos. It's because he is single-handedly responsible for creating the game of American football, love it or not. I believe he deserves that level of respect. I'm John Johnston, and this is Hardcore College Football History. Please subscribe to this channel to help me grow. Walter Camp, the man, was born in New Britain, Connecticut on April 7, 1859. He attended Hopkins Grammar School in New Haven, Connecticut, then entered Yale in 1875. The story of Walter Camp, the father of American football, begins at Yale. He plays rugby for Yale from 1876 to 1882 under the Rugby Union rules established by the Intercollegiate Football Association. Camp served as the team captain for 3 years, and the game he played evolves considerably from when he began. While still a student, he uses his persuasive personality to affect the rules, and in 1878 he proposes that the rules be changed so that the game has 11 players on a side instead of 15. Is that important rules change because you now have 22 men running around on a field instead of 30. Imagine 30 guys on a football field. Imagine trying to complete a pass with that or do anything. Wow. The proposal for 11 men on a side is rejected for 2 years, then accepted in 1880. A key point as to its acceptance, it's easier to get permission from a university for 11 guys to travel at that time for sport than it is 15. Also in 1880, Camp comes up with the concept of possession, and it is the rule that separates American football from rugby. Here is the exact rule. The scrimmage takes place when the holder of the ball puts it on the ground before him and puts it in play by kicking the ball or snapping it back with his foot. The man who first receives the ball from the snapback shall be called the quarterback and shall not rush forward with the ball under penalty of foul. So right there, bang, he comes up with possession and implicitly invents the quarterback position. Now, it wasn't enough to simply create the concept of possession, as teams would hold on to the ball. This led to what were called block games, and the most famous of these is the 1881 Yale-Princeton game, where both teams held on to the ball for the majority of the game. Princeton started the first half with the ball and made no attempt to score. They basically moved it backwards into what we would call the end zone nowadays. They argued that there was no rule that they had to give it over to the other team despite what we would call a safety, and therefore they kept the ball and they started over at the 25-yard line. Yale, seeing this, did the same thing in the second half. They held the ball and made no attempt to score. The game ended in a scoreless tie, which made everyone who watched it very, very angry because it was boring. The ultimate American sin. The incentive for both teams was to avoid a loss, and therefore they could both call themselves champions, which they did. From the Buffalo commercial, November 26, 1881. As Princeton held the championship last year, she will probably claim it this season on the ground that she has not been beaten, while Yale, having won 2 games of the series of 3 between the best teams, will probably also lay claim to the honor. To rid the game of such nonsense, in 1882, Walter Camp, the father of American football, invents the system of downs. The idea that you get 3 downs, or scrimmages, as they were called, to get 5 yards or lose 10 yards, and you're forced to surrender the ball. Camp also comes up with the numerical scoring system. In 1883, points were awarded for goals, touchdowns, and safeties. In 1883, a safety is worth 1 point, a touchdown 2 points, a goal from a try 4 points, and a goal from the field 5 points. And then in 1884, the scoring was changed again so that a touchdown was 4 points, goal after touchdown 2 points, and a safety 2 points. Therefore, Walter Camp, the father of American football, also invented the safety. Camp is the Yale football coach from 1888 to 1892, winning 67 games, losing only 2. He also coached at Stanford University, where he coached in 1892, 1894, and 1895. In 1892, he coached both teams, Yale and Stanford, as Stanford's season didn't start until December. Camp helped popularize the sport of football across the nation, as he wrote around 30 books and more than 250 magazine articles. He wrote for Harper's Weekly, Collier's, Outing, Outlook, The Independent, and for years he edited or wrote the annual Spalding Football Guide. In 1889, he starts picking All-American teams. He has a very strong Eastern bias, but since the sport started there, it took a long time, as in decades, for football outside the Northeast to be recognized. Teams like Chicago, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even Nebraska would be left out of recognition. Notre Dame would have to play the teams in the East to gain a reputation. If you watched my series about the foundation and establishment of early American football, and I recommend you do, of course, then you are aware that football was extremely violent and dangerous before 1912. Players died every year, sometimes a lot of them. Now, I will include a link to the playlist in the description with this video and a link to the playlist at the end of this video. Walter Camp, the father of American football, had a very heavy influence on the rules, and therefore influence on the retention of the mass plays that made up the game of football from basically around 1894 through 1909. He did his best job to keep the game from changing. He hated the forward pass, and he did everything he could to keep it out of the game, or at least neuter it for as long as possible. John Sale Watterson says this of Camp: "The prototype for athletic organization began at Eastern institutions in the 1880s and 1890s. Yale's Walter Camp, the father of American football, became the model for the coach and athletic director. While pursuing a business career, he also acted as Yale's de facto vice president for athletic operations, who dominated the rules committee and ceaselessly publicized the game. From the profits of big games in Boston and New York, Camp created an ample reserve fund that supported lesser sports, afforded lush treatment for athletes, and provided the money that eventually went toward building Yale Bowl, the first of the modern football stadiums. By making Yale into an athletic powerhouse, Camp built the school's reputation, making it second only to Harvard. Because he succeeded so well, Camp became the first big-name foe of sweeping football reforms, and especially hardcore opponent of the forward pass. Camp felt that football was a tough, manly sport, and it needed to stay that way to develop strong young men. He was also defending what he built at Yale, which was a winning team built around mass play. From a letter he wrote for the Yale News on December 7, 1907, "The American collegian, whether player or spectator, does not care for a game in which the element of chance is paramount. He likes to see or play a game where hard work counts, and a game where definite planning secures a well-appreciated result. For this reason, he does not care for the unlimited forward pass, which can now be tried without severe penalty on first and second down. Throwing the ball around indiscriminately may be the last resort of a weak or inferior team, and as such is unsatisfactory." Now keep in mind, this letter is 1 year after the forward pass had been legalized in 1906. In 1909, mass play was still in use, and football was still killing people because of the game itself. The problem is best described in a quote from Charles Eliot, president of Harvard and loud football critic. This is taken from John Sale Watterson's book. "Men are killed and wounded," Eliot conceded, "in hunting, rowing, riding, horseback on a road or in steeplechase, sailing boats, canoeing, and climbing mountains. But what distinguished football from other dangerous sports," he insisted, was that the dangers in football resulted from risks of the game deliberately planned and deliberately maintained. The threat of death and injury on the football field resulted not from random accidents, but from playing the game according to the rules. In 1910, the Rules Committee finally has enough. They basically pushed camp to the side and changed the rules to end mass play. Later in 1912, they changed the rules further so the forward pass wasn't neutered as much and could be used as part of the offense as much as the run. In 1912, American football became the modern game that we know and love today. Walter Camp, the father of American football, died of a heart attack on March 14, 1925. From the Chicago Tribune on March 15, 1925, famous football writer Walt Eckersall says, Camp grew up with American intercollegiate football. He championed its cause whenever the game was in danger and helped to tide it over some precarious periods. Newt Rockne of Notre Dame says, the message stuns me. His loss to the sporting world will be irreparable. He was not only a leading figure in football, but in all college sports and in physical education as well. Camp was a severe critic, but he has perhaps done more for college football and inspiring interest in the game and supporting its spread all over the country than any other man may ever do. Fielding Yost says, he gave football its high place in amateur athletics. He wrote its rules. He taught its uses in raising the spirit and morale of college men. He made it a dominant factor in American youth. All of us interested in developing strong, virile young manhood will miss the influence he exercised so long and effectively throughout the entire realm of sports. That's pretty high praise. Walter Camp is the father of American football because he single-handedly invented the sport of American football through coming up with the concept of possession, the system of downs, and the line of scrimmage. He invented all three of those things and went on to invent and influence the game, to make sure it stayed as a game instead of being outlawed or abolished, because there were several crises that occurred at that time. Walter Camp, the father of American football, invented and steered the sport we love to become the biggest sport in the United States. And if you love college football as much as I do, we owe him a great deal of gratitude for doing so. There are many more college football stories to tell, and I plan on doing just that in this channel. I hope you like them, and I hope you subscribe and stay tuned for more. Please share them with your friends who might be interested in either history or college football so that I can grow. This is John Johnston with Hardcore College Football History. Thank you.